So most recently, Tish has developed the Unstoppable Confidence Sales Academy, a business school that teaches a systematic, sincere, and effective approach to networking and sales to produce lucrative bottom line results. Today, I'm so thankful that she is here to talk about stop playing with our sales. And with that, Tish, take the screen, take the mic.
Awesome. Well, I am so glad to be here. I see a couple of familiar faces. Keenan, I haven't seen you in forever. So good to see you, Angela. And those of you all who have not had the opportunity to meet, I'm so pleased to be here. If you have a lot of things going on and you just can't jump on camera, I definitely understand that. However, if you can, I'd love to see your faces. And April, I remember before you came to the mastermind. So actually, matter of fact, have been working with NABO around our diversity and inclusion project, if you will. And we invited you to come and be one of our panel speakers at an event that we had earlier in 2018. And that's how I met you the very first time, and then invited you to come to our mastermind because I just fell in love with you after meeting you that very first time.
Oh, it's mutual, Tish. Thank you.
You are so welcome. So the way I roll is this. You can totally wait until the end. We'll have a Q&A. But if you have a question, if you have something you'd like to, to jump in and add, feel free. On the bottom of your screen, there's actually reactions. So if you see something that just like, woohoo, you can totally do this. If we were in person, I'd have you give orange applause. But since we're not in person, you can put an emoticon of any type that you want to, to express. You can also raise your hand using that reaction button as well. There we go. You see a little clapping right there April showed us. Do that. I'd love to kind of see what you're getting, see what's landing for you, and also see and hear how you'd like to implement the things that we're going to be talking about today. So again, I'm not someone who wants to talk to you, I'm going to talk with you. So I want us to have a conversation. At points, I'm going to interact or want to interact with you. So I'll ask you all to unmute your lines at that time. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Give me a second to get to where it needs to be, and then we'll jump in here in just a second here. And I would love, if it's okay with April, just so I can know, how this is going to apply to you. Can I just ask every person just to tell me what kind of world they're in? Are they in business for themselves? Do you work in a position? What is your role in that position? Give me an idea of who you are, so as we're talking, I'll know how this is really going to help you. Suzanne, can I ask you to unmute?
Yeah, hey, I'm Suzanne Singer. I'm with the nonprofit organization Native Renewables, and we're working on off-grid power for Native communities. And as we have 4 people now, we started with 2. So basically I do a ton of different roles, and I think I'm excited because I think in terms of sales, we're going to do a lot of interaction with community people, like individuals. So I think that'll be really interesting, but I have a ton of different roles. So I wouldn't say I have one specific one.
Very cool. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here today. Angela, I know who you are and what you do, but I'm still going to have you say it. Can you unmute yourself? You want us to unmute you?
Hey there.
There you are.
So Angela Garman. So I have my own business, a consulting firm, and I'm sorry for the loud noise earlier. My dog had got into the water bottle. So just looking forward to learning a little bit more about sales.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Lisa, I'm glad that you're here. I know what your role is we're doing this. I don't know if you want to share anything else.
Yeah, I guess I was previously working in the nonprofit sector, and I was a grant writer, a fundraiser, and just involved with our private donors. So I have experience in nonprofits. However, moving into business ownership is something that is very new to me. So it's interesting. I'm excited to learn more about that.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Asia, can I hear from you?
Hello. So I am Asia Soliazi. I own Slay and Beauty, which is basically kind of like an outreach program or an outreach thing. It's not new, but because I was working down at Gila River Healthcare for the last year. I've recently moved on to a different nonprofit. However, before I took that role down there, I was traveling, I was going to schools, I was doing speaking, and just also business consulting I was also doing with that, and just kind of more focusing on the youth was the main goal of the whole Slay Beauty initiative that I had set forth for myself. Currently, right now, I'm the project coordinator at COPE, which stands for Community Outreach and Patient Empowerment Program, and it's located in Galileo, Mexico, which I recently moved back to from Arizona. So I'm back with another company, and it's a nonprofit organization. So I am always working with like funders and just other nonprofit or other donation or donors to help fund our program. So that's
Very
what I
cool. Welcome. I'm glad you're here, Aisha. Thank you. Keena Rosen.
Hi, Tish. Great to see you.
Likewise.
So currently, I have been working as a fascial stretch therapist for the past 4 years. So I'm actually in my studio right now where I incorporate sound healing. So I have been pivoting my work during this time where I'm not able to do one-on-one sessions in person to the virtual model, whether it's doing sound healing work, health coaching, stretching, yoga, any of those items that I can do virtually. So that's really the space that I'm in right now. Is I have my own business, and also really excited about this new aspect of my my business right here in Scottsdale, Scottsdale Road in Shea. So
very cool, Keena. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. Hey, John, what about you, sir?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I actually sit on the board of directors for the American Indian Chamber of Commerce for Arizona. And I sit on the chair for the Tribal Economic Development Committee for Arizona Association for Economic Development. So, and I just started my own LLC for more just of a networking and consulting in different areas. I worked in the biotech company. I didn't personally start, but worked with a biotech company as they started up working on stem cell therapy for wound care for Native American communities. So different area, but what I work for the chair for the chamber and also for AAED is I work with a lot of different organizations and companies who might benefit from these type of programs and these type of webinars. So I kind of take a peek at them. So when they start asking me questions, I can actually kind of do a reference where to shoot them for certain things.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad you came. Thank you so much. And I wanted to hear from everyone because sometimes we get it in our heads. Well, for instance, well, I'm a nonprofit. I don't know how this is going to really impact me, or I don't know how I can utilize this information. And I want to assure you that, you know, as you're gleaning the information and asking questions and everything, I want you to be able to apply the information in whatever role you currently serve in. So once again, if you have questions, you can definitely jot them down and we'll answer them at the end. But if you have a question while I'm speaking, don't hesitate. Just know, however, you know, Lisa will let me know because I may not be able to see everyone's face at the same time. So if you're doing this, just know I don't see everyone right this moment in the current view that I'm in. So just jot it down, unmute your line and just start asking, or let Lisa know and she'll get it to me. All right, April, thank you again. I really appreciate the chance to be here. And we're gonna stop playing with ourselves. And what I mean by that and why I chose this particular topic is that so frequently we're very lackadaisical, very willy-nilly, not so intentional around the way that we sell, because many times our mindset is such that sales is a bad thing, that if we're going to sell somebody, we almost have to manipulate or trick them into saying yes, or we just avoid it altogether. And understanding, you know, who we are, what heart we come from, if you will, what is our motive for being able to present our offering, our product, our service, it changes everything. So I'm going to invite every one of you all to really examine your mindset around sales. Have you been told or taught that sales is sleazy, that it's bothersome, right? You know, how many of you all have gotten auto dial from someone, and the moment they say hello, you're like, they're going to sell me something, and you already automatically want to hang up the phone. If that's the way we receive sales, many times it's because that's the way we think about it, which means we're not going to do it. Or if we do it, it feels icky. It feels like we're kind of out of our character, if you will. And I want us to be able to be super intentional and very authentic in the way that we present our products and our services. So one of the reasons we don't sell is because we're afraid. Our 8-year-old self shows up to the game, and we're like, remembering when we weren't picked for the team, we're remembering when our best friend, decided they wanted to have another friend and they left us alone or whatever. And many times we just get fearful and we don't want to be rejected, so we just don't show up at all. But I believe that fear has an assignment to make you sit down and shut up. And when you're silent, you cannot be effective for the people who need to hear your voice, right? So what that means is if you're supposed to be out telling people about the wonderful product, the wonderful service you have to offer, the nonprofit services that you're bringing to the table, the opportunities that you have to present, they're going to miss out, and they're only going to miss out because we refuse to show up and be fully who we are. And I made a decision. This was something, and I believe I'm good at what I do because I've experienced all of this. I deal with it, right? I've just learned some systems and some processes that help me to overcome some of this, but fear is real. But I decided fear is no longer going to bully me into stagnation. It's not going to stop me. It's not going to make me sit down and shut up. And I invite you to do the same, to make that decision right now that, hey, I am going to do what I must do to make sure that I'm a blessing to the people who need me the most, right? I almost want you to put your right hand up and say that with me, because it's such an important thing when we're willing to say, it's more than me, it's bigger than me. And when I am silent, when I need to be speaking up, there are people who need what I have who are never going to get it. So kind of take that in, right? Take that in and recognize that you are so much better than sometimes you might realize. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of doing what we must do. So I know in my business, I do a lot of like live videos and I do a lot of speaking on stage. And as many things as you might see me do publicly, you'd be amazed at how many things I've talked myself out of. I've made up stories in my head about why now was not the right time. Why it would, I'll try later, I'll do it next month or whatever, because there was something in my head, an old story telling me that I wasn't good enough, didn't have what it took, they're not going to receive it, it costs too much, all the stories. Now, how many of y'all have had stories like that in your head? Anybody? Right? And so you have to remember you are far better than you may realize. And look, you may think your customer only cares about your product or your service as a commodity, but at the end of the day, they're buying you. They want to be in your presence. They want to be around your energy, and they need you, and you get to serve them with whatever you're bringing to the table. So you have to be proactive. You have to continue to stay in the forefront of the people who don't even know you yet, but they need you. They're looking for you, but they don't know you exist possibly yet because maybe you have not been as visible as you ought to be or as loud as you ought to be. And you may feel like, well, I don't think I need to be loud. Don't think of it in that way. Think about, I just have a responsibility and obligation to let people know that I have the solution to what they're looking for, right? And it's funny because McDonald's is not embarrassed about getting in front of you. Burger King is not embarrassed about getting in front of you. Why do we as sometimes smaller business owners think, well, I don't want to be too much? You are not too much, you're just enough. And so you just have to get up and be, exactly who you're called to be. So I'm going to have us do this. I will ask you all to unmute your lines for this activity. I want us to talk about what are the things that, especially in this particular world that we're in, our online space, for those of us who have done online work for a long time, we kind of had it to ourselves for a while. Well, guess what? Everybody is at the party now. And it is loud in the online market and on social media and the email inboxes. It's loud because everybody is doing it now. So we have to figure out a way to be different, to differentiate ourselves from those who technically do what we do. So I want you to think about it. I'm going to give you a second to list 3 things that differentiate you and your message in a positive way from your competition. Now, this is the clue and the key. We could probably write an essay about it. We could probably stand up and tell a long story about it, but it's difficult for many people to very clearly and concisely share their message. So for this particular exercise, you have 30 seconds to tell me what are the 3 things that cause you to be different from those, and I say it purposely, technically do what you do, because no one does it the way you do it. You know what I mean, Kenny? There's nobody else who does what you do exactly how you do it. They may technically do yoga, but they don't do it and they don't bring the spirit and the energy that you do. So think about it that way. 30 seconds or less. What are 3 things that cause you to be different from your competition? Kenny, why don't you go first?
Okay, so what I do is I incorporate fascial stretch therapy in sound healing, and I also have a 14-pound heated mat on the table. So it's very restorative. I use innovative tools to help people really relax and promote deep relaxation. So
Awesome.
nobody that I know has the ability to bring in the sound with the stretch therapy and the aromatherapy.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect, perfect. Who else is ready? Because I see some of y'all are like jotting things down. Don't be embarrassed and don't be afraid. This is a safe space. Okay, I promise you, April. And I know she creates a safe space, and I'm providing, I'm adding to that. So it's a safe space, no wrong answers. And if you have questions or you need help, that's what we're here for. So anyone want to chime in? Everybody's going to get a chance to go, so don't worry. I'm going to call on you if you're not ready. I mean, if you're not ready right this moment, but anybody ready right this moment? All right, let's go with John.
I guess one thing for me is basically in my field, just because the biotech background is something I have. So I worked a lot with the different tribal communities, have more of a science background in manufacturing, research, and development, which is becoming very handy, especially now because of everything that's happening with the coronavirus or the COVID-19. And because of these things, tribes are starting to look internally for their own type of infrastructure to be in place, their own testing labs, their own quality lab, and their own scientists to rely upon, because they're starting to realize different organizations outside their own, they're not a priority. It's going to come down to who they're going to help. They're going to eventually get down to the tribal organizations, but certain tribes are being more aggressive in it, and they're actually creating their own labs, their own facilities internally through the tribes. And so they're
John,
starting.
I'll stop you there just because I want us to make sure we kind of do about 30 seconds. But what you said in a mouthful was enough. Your background in and of itself sets you apart. So keep that, you know what I mean? Keep that in your pocket, meaning utilize that, because sometimes we think we have to give a long explanation, but just being able to pull 2 or 3 things out will get someone's attention, and then they'll invite you into that deeper conversation. So I love that.
Oh, thank you. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all of you all, don't only look at this, where you are right now, what you do right now. What do you bring from your experience, right? From your previous jobs, from, you know, other organizations you might have led. Those things are important. They definitely add weight to your credibility. So use those as well. So Angela, you ready, ma'am?
So I have my own methodology called the ARG method that is combined with Six Sigma methodology to improve processes. I focus on the human dynamics and the impact that it has on change. And then I create lean learning environments or training environments so that the learning is practical.
All right, then. Love it, love it, love it. So I get Six Sigma. I did staffing for years, and I put people in light industrial environments, so I totally get that. And I know how unique that is. So being able to bring those things that those who are going to be listening to you understand and get it, boom, done and done. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Asia, are you ready, ma'am?
I'll give it a go.
Okay.
So with Slaying Beauty, it is where I was able to use my creative spirit, and in those talents that I have, I can advocate for improving the well-being of Native communities through abuse prevention, suicide prevention, youth outreach, professional development, higher education, and healthy lifestyles. And this is done through specialized outreach and empowerment.
I like it. Very good. And it's, you know, there's some of those things that are very much hot buttons. So sometimes just saying, I serve these particular audiences, you know what I mean? Sometimes that's enough as well. So I can appreciate that. Suzanne, you ready, ma'am? Let me get you to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So As an organization, I think we want to uplift Native communities through knowledge and power, literally. I believe in education, particularly because my background is a STEM professional. And our programs, we want to offset existing energy costs by having an affordable program for families.
Love it. Very, very good. So I love what everyone has said. And I'm saying, Lisa and April, I know y'all are kind of our hosts. So if you want to chime in, feel free to do so. I don't want to ask you if you're not ready, but I'd love to hear from you all if you'd like to participate as well.
Sure. So I would say that I ignite Indigenous connections. I am a technical interpreter to help take the tech specs and help most folks understand it. And also I am, the third one has to do with like a culture, being able to be like a cultural guide for those external to Indian country and help them do it in a respectful and, a way that it's a win-win-win for everybody.
Love, 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 love. Awesome. Thank you. Lisa, you want to share anything?
Sure. So I'm kind of in between different things, but being in the fundraising field with the nonprofits, I feel that I'm very passionate about nonprofit work, especially within the Native American communities. And when working with people, I bring realness and just being myself and being authentically me, and really caring about the people who support the cause and not about what's in their wallets.
Love it. Very, very, very good. And that's something that's going to touch someone's hearts. It's funny. It's like when we can't give a technical, for those of us who are not in that space, right? When we can't give a technical answer, if you will, we need to be able to touch them in an emotional place, because we make decisions, most of us emotionally, believe it or not. We may not say it that way, we may not think about it, but if there's no connection, generally there's no transactions. We want to be really aware of being able to hit them technically as well as emotionally. And then the other thing that's really important, I love what each and every one of you all said, make sure that you're giving them the end result. So frequently, we love what we do so much, we're like, and we will help you do this, and we'll teach you this, and we'll give you all the house, but we gotta make sure we give them, at the end of the day, you're gonna make more money. At the end of the day, you're going to have better relationships. At the end of the day, your team is going to perform at a higher level. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that you're giving them that end goal result that they're going to really care about. Because the likelihood is when we're talking about our stuff that we're so passionate about, especially if we're not concise, guess what they're hearing? Charlie Brown's teacher. Rah, 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 until they hear more money. Huh? Tell me more about that. You know what I mean? So I really encourage you to kind of practice that. Take some time and even ask some of your colleagues, some of your maybe if you have other mastermind partners or friends that are in the business, to listen to what you've said and have them give you more feedback, because it is important that we're clear and concise around how we talk about our differentiators, right? Because as I said, if we're not clear, we take on a journey they never signed up for, and they are jumping off the ship. We're still going, we're still talking, they have left the building. They may be physically standing there, but they are like, okay, what are we making for dinner? Or how am I gonna get to that thing next week? They have left the building. So we want to make sure if we're making them follow us, try to figure out what we're saying, they're gonna exit the train, because the confused mind always shuts down. So especially if we're talking about the sales process, again, we're thinking we're giving them lots of information. They don't want that information. They want, how can you help me to close this gap, to solve this problem, to get the money I need to move to the next level? So let's be really, really clear about that. I was talking to someone earlier, and I promise you, I was just like, okay, I literally had to stop the car. I'm trying to bring them into something, and I was like, not the right fit, because they're not clear on what they do at all. And I was like, I need to kind of back up and get them over here, because they're not ready for where we're trying to take them right now. So be really, really, really clear about what you do. What I'm seeing happening in this particular time, and for those who might listen to this later, we're talking about the COVID-19 quarantine, everybody's stuck at home, nobody's meeting in person for the most part. We find ourselves, sometimes if we're already struggling with visibility, then this is the prime time for people to shrink back, to shut down, to hide away. But if we're not clear and we're not being visible, then our brand is going to shrink. And what's going to happen is we're going to be running back to the marketplace when everything is up and running, going, here I am, I want to tell you about my stuff. And they're going to be like, where were you all this time? Right? So we want to make sure we're utilizing this time, not to try to, you know, capitalize or take advantage of people in the space where they're in, but that we're being really consistent and really clear with our message, so that when the time is right, they are ready. They need you already. They just may not be ready to make a decision based on what's happening in the marketplace and in the world. So we have to be able to be super clear, super visible, because if others can't clearly repeat what you do in 5 seconds or less, you're losing opportunities. And I know that's a big statement, but it's just the truth. And the reason that's so important is I should be out and about in my world, mingling with my people. And when I hear them say they need this, I should be able to go, oh, you need to talk to April Tinhorn. Because I know with so clearly what she does. What might be happening, and you can tell me if this is something that's ever happened to you, you get a referral and you're just like, well, you know, that's not quite what I do, but let me try to find someone else that can help you, right? So if we're not clear with the way we're presenting our business, we're inviting other people who love us to go tell other people the wrong message and invite other people into our business who aren't our ideal clients. And I'll give you a clear example, and April, remember us talking about this, because I shared it with April probably a year or so ago. I have avatars, and my avatars are so clear. And if you go to tishtimes.com, scroll down, you'll see them on the page. But I had to have a picture of my ideal clients, and I had to allow other people in my space to be able to quickly identify ideal clients. I get calls all the time, and they're going, I know I need you because. So my first avatar is what we call introvert Irene. And Irene is a person who is a little more introverted, but they have a phenomenal product or service. They are not as vocal or visible with their product or service, so though they have a fantastic offering, few people know about them, right? Then I have Networking Nancy, out at every event and all the Facebook pictures, not making any money because she doesn't really have a plan around how to network and how to sell. So she's spinning her wheels, but not really getting a return on her investment. And then sales leader Susan is over a team, maybe in network marketing, maybe in insurance or real estate, and she's responsible for bringing dollars to the bottom line and keeping her team engaged and motivated so that they'll go out and meet their sales goals quick, right? 3 different people. So when people call me, they're going, hey, I need to talk to you. I know I'm sales leader Susan. I need to talk to you. I know I'm networking Nancy. And so if people are not able to go out on your behalf and say, you need to talk to Lisa because she does this, she helps these people, and she can assist you, then I want you to really work on recrafting your message. Does that make sense? And I want to hear from you all. Tell me, how does that land for you? Unmute your line and just tell me, how is that clear? And do you feel like you could kind of take what you said this way and kind of bring it down here where people are able to quickly identify what you do? April, let me hear from you because you and I have talked about this before.
So I was thinking about what you were saying, and I forget the second one. You said the networking.
Nancy. Yeah.
So that was the one when we first started working together that I identified with, and it even though we haven't talked, in a while, what you shared with me has stuck with basically follow up, and to also having I guess more planning in place, like before an event, like to know I need to do pre-work, a lot of pre-work. And then I only would do the stuff at the networking event or conference, and then didn't really have anything for post work. And so just having a process in place has helped me. I think I'm still networking Nancy, but maybe just not strong when
You're
anymore.
advanced. You're networking Nancy 2.0, girl.
Right,
No, but
exactly.
I've seen your work though. So, but the point I'm really wanting to make, and thank you, April, for sharing that. It's just help the people who want to refer business to you and the people who want to work with you to be really clear is what I'm really getting to. Make sure that they're very, very clear on what you do, who you help, and what results you can bring to them. And when you're able to articulate that, golden all day long, all right? And so in order to also, attract your ideal clients, many times we want to go into an event and we want to start talking and telling people, I do this and I do that, and I do this and I do it that way and I do it this way, you know, and that's not the way to attract them. And it's not the way for you to find out if you can best serve them. But asking the right questions helps you, number one, to know, are they networking, Nancy? After I can ask the person 1 or 2 questions and know exactly who they are, right? And so you want to have compelling questions and understand that the types of questions you ask, not necessarily what you're telling them, helps to really solidify your credibility, your trustworthiness in the eye of the potential client. They need to know that you know you can help them, right? So asking those right questions are really important. I have some sample questions as well that I'm happy to share with April that you can disseminate throughout the group. And it's interesting. It's the same question we might be asking, but in a different way, in a way that allows you to gather the information you need to know how to best serve them. So instead of saying to someone, hey, Lisa, what do you do? Instead, maybe you say, so Lisa, what causes you to be so passionate about what you do? What got you involved in the space that you're in? And again, it's a different question. It's the same question asked a different way. And the reason that's important, number one, if I can get someone to go, I never thought about that. Now I have them thinking, that sets you apart all by itself, because everybody else in the room is saying, so what do you do? So what do you do? So what do you do? And you just get them to think. And once you get someone to think differently, you're going to be memorable for them. And it's going to help you to know how you can best serve them. So I will, once again, very happily provide you all with some sample questions that you can use. Find out, you know, what's important to them, what's interesting to them, what risk they might perceive depending on the type of service or industry that they're in. So, and again, I have a whole list that I'm happy to share with you, okay? I said earlier, if we're not having that emotional connection right off the bat, the likelihood is we're missing an opportunity, especially women, men as well, but especially women buy emotionally. And so instead of just saying, have you worked with someone in my industry before? Have you bought a house before? And I'm a realtor, right? How did you feel when you bought your last house? Or how did you feel when you got that house off the market? Because if I can get them to engage from an emotional standpoint, they're more likely to want to move forward in that conversation than if I just have them stay on a surface level. So once again, I'm happy to share these with you because there's a lot of them that you could choose from. But business is emotional. If we choose to believe otherwise, we're going to miss opportunities. So if I'm asking the questions, then I need to be listening. I need to be listening to what they're saying, what they're answering to the current question. What's the meta message, right? What's the message within the message? Because frequently people are saying this, but what they're really meaning is down here. So when I ask someone, why do you have your own business? Oh, because I want to make more money. In so many words, I'm basically asking them, so tell me why. Tell me more. Tell me more. Because at the end of the day, they're saying, you know what? I had to put all of my older kids in daycare and I never got to see them. And now I want to have the opportunity to spend the time with my child that I want. You know what I mean? So there's generally a bigger message that we're missing when we're staying on that surface level. So asking those right questions not only make us memorable, help us to serve, they also help us to have more opportunities to learn, to serve, and to be able to invite them into something that we might have to offer. But it's because we understand the real reason. If we're selling this and they're really needing to buy this, we're going to be missing those opportunities, right? And I have been doing sales training for years. I worked in the staffing industry for a long time. I owned a staffing company for 8 years. So I'm fully aware of how people train in sales and generally will say, well, you need to say this and you need to see 18 people and all those things. But when we're scripting things, it comes off as that way because again, you all have gotten the call, you've known it was a sales call and you've hung up, right? Because it's a script and you can sense that, you can tell that there's no authenticity there. So although I provide templates, I give you a general idea of the things you might want to ask or maybe the cadence of the call, but I want it to be your voice. I want it to be your personality. I love saying, I don't want to make a bunch of mini me's, I want to make a big you. I want to help you to be big in your own personality, to stand out for who you are, and for people to be drawn to your personality. Because if they fall in love with your scripted self, when the real you shows up, you're in trouble because you can't keep that up forever. You want to be real. And upsells or real sales are more effective when they arise naturally out of a conversation. Generally, the conversation is going and they're like, so tell me more. You know what? I've been needing to talk to someone about that. I was looking for, you know what I mean? And now you have a natural conversation. They really want what you had to offer. You didn't have to try to beg them or manipulate them to try to say yes to you, right? Now you have a relationship starting and you can take it from there. So don't feel like you have to have scripts. And even if you do have a script, even if you're in an organization that requires you to have some type of a script, you have to figure out a way to make that your own. You got to figure out a way to let that warmth come across the receptor, you know, the person who's talking to you on the other line, the person who's seeing your face, make sure that it's you. Don't let anyone take you out of you. You know, what you've heard, you remember my tagline, you know, rock your shell. People will say, you got to get out of your shell. No, ma'am. No, sir. Don't feel like you have to get out of your shell. Figure out how to rock your shell. Be you all day, every day. And be aware. So you're asking these questions, you're being more authentic. And when someone is saying, oh my God, Angela, when you came and worked with my team, it changed everything. And we had this happen and that happen. There's nothing wrong with extracting that and asking them, would you be willing to allow me to capture that? I really appreciate what you've said. I'd love to be able to share it with other people who might be in need of the same thing and don't realize what we're able to do for them. So you are able to, you know, to ask for testimonials. I encourage you to ask for testimonials, to ask for people to review, you know, your work when you've done something great for them. You can do a Google review. Facebook has a place where they can review your work as well. Or you can just ask for it and have it on your website after you get permission for it, because a great way to get those who are in the market for what you do to believe in what you do before they get a chance to meet you is to see what others are saying. So make sure you have their permission, but once you get it, make sure you're asking for it. Many times we're hearing it, but we're never capturing it. We're never asking, you know, to tell me, and then ask them, why did you select me? I know you had many other options. Why did you select me? And then ask them if you can utilize that as well. And so sometimes we're missing opportunities to what I call seal that relationship. Sometimes we just didn't understand the prospect's needs because we weren't asking the right questions. Or instead of listening, we were trying to think of what we were going to say next. So many times our ignorance cost us opportunities, right? And many times it's our confidence, not our competence, that causes us to miss it. Because we're competent, we can do what we do well, but we don't always have the confidence to pick up the phone and make the call, to invite them to whatever we're offering, right? So we have to make sure that our confidence is in filling our opportunity. Because what you believe will be evident in what you do. So we can get on Facebook Live all day and say how awesome we are. We do this and we do that. But what's really showing up in your business? You know what I mean? I always say I can follow someone for 5 days and see where they're going to be in 5 years. Because your behavior, your habits, right? All of those things prove what you really believe. And so I invite you to also really just start to, you know, reflect on that. What does my day look like? Am I making those connections? Am I writing the content I need to write? Am I looking at, you know, what my next week is going to look? Am I doing the things that are necessary for me to have sales success, for me to have great success? And if not, why? It's a belief issue. It's not a competence issue. It's a belief. It's a issue around how we see ourselves. And another thing I want to just kind of help us to see is, I love referral business. I own a referral business, you know, a networking organization where we refer business. So I fully agree with, I believe in referral business. However, many times we become crocodiles and we sit around and wait for someone to come and feed us. We sit around and wait for someone to refer business to us. And if we are just kind of waiting for those opportunities and not going out and actively pursuing for ourselves, the likelihood is we're not going to be able to project our year well. We're not going to be able to create new business. So don't be a crocodile. They can wait for days for an opportunity to eat. They can eat once and not have to eat again, but they are always at you know, they're always waiting for what comes around. They're not going out and actively pursuing new business. You know, we're lurking, you know what I mean? We're at the mercy of what the competition leaves behind when we are not, you know, proactive in the way that we sell. That's why I said be intentional. Don't allow yourself to just kind of be floating and waiting to see what happens. So when we're not intentional, when we're not, really examining our habits and making sure that we're authentic in our behavior, we're going to be leaving money on the table every single day. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to kind of think about it. Am I clear? Am I concise in the way that I'm presenting myself? Am I consistent? Am I visible? And am I making sure that I'm authentic in the way that I interact with the people that I want to be able to serve? And if so, you're going to be able to go and capture those lost dollars, right? If you're following up effectively, if you're making sure you're in the right rooms and having those powerful conversations, you'll be able to secure those dollars. You don't have to keep leaving money on the table. It's easier than you would think. If I said anything that sounds impossible to any of you all, anything that's like, oh my God, I can't do that, right? It's all simple stuff. And most of it is a shift in the way that we think. So I invite you to step in, to reevaluate, to really clarify your message, and to change the way that you're probably currently doing business. So I want to say thank you for having me. I'm going to hang out here and answer any questions you all might have. And I invite you to unmute your lines. And April, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tish. I'm always inspired when you share your gifts and your good energy. Just so you know, translates online as well as it does in person.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And just if I could share, one of the things you had told me that has always stuck with me is when you showed that little money one, is you told us, I'm trying to find my business card, but I guess I'll use this one. You had told me that
oh yeah,
the business cards, you're all like, how much on average is one of your products or services? And so I was like, I don't know, we'll just say like $2,000. And you're like, well, then every business card that you get from somebody is $2,000. How many is in a stack on your desk? How many of them have you followed up with? Because you got all that, you're leaving money right there on your desk if you're doing nothing with that card.
yeah.
And what I took away from that, being a networking person, is I became definitely more selective on what type of cards I took. So I started like pre-screening people, and I just don't take cards anymore. And on the flip, I don't just like paper out my cards. I have conversations before I give it, and a lot of times I wait till they ask for it.
Yeah.
After those conversations.
Yay, it worked. Super cool. Super